Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Suzanne Peterson, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Leading Seaman Raymond Stanton. We warmly welcome Mr. Alex McGowan, representing the Naval Association of Australia, the delegation representing the Royal Australian Air Force Indigenous Pre-Recruit Program. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Brewarrina Central School from New South Wales and Neville Public School from New South Wales. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they'd done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record that they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to telegraphist George Ross Bennie. Born in 1919, George Bennie was the youngest son of John and Rose Bennie of the Adelaide suburb of St Peters. Little is known of George Bennie's early life. On the 1st of August 1938, at the age of 19, he enlisted in the Royal Australian Navy for a period of 12 years. He began training at HMAS Cerberus, the primary training establishment for naval personnel. In early February 1939, he was rated Ordinary Seaman, and in August, he was rated Ordinary Telegraphist. In September, he was rated Telegraphist. In 1940, Bennie married Joyce Denham, and the couple established a home in Queenscliff. Bennie was soon transferred to HMAS Australia, followed by periods at HMAS Penguin, HMAS Adelaide, then HMAS Australia from June 1941. Naval telegraphists played an important role in the fighting efficiency of the Royal Australian Navy, as they maintained continuous shifts, known as watches, to send and receive important signals. As there were no satellite communications, wireless communication was the principal means of sending and receiving signals. Rough seas, bad weather, and poor atmospheric conditions all influenced the ability to communicate effectively, so telegraphists had to be proficient in adapting to the changing circumstances at sea. They also had to adhere to periods of radio silence when ships would stop transmitting in order to avoid interception through radio direction finding. In early September 1941, Bennie transferred to HMAS Cuttable, formerly SS Cuttable. The ship had been converted from a Sydney Ferries Limited ferry and requisitioned by the Royal Australian Navy as a depot ship to the naval base at Garden Island, HMAS Penguin. Cuttable was used primarily as an accommodation ship for ratings posted to Penguin, and soon became a familiar sight moored against the seawall alongside the East Wharf at Garden Island. In late January 1942, Bennie became ill and was hospitalised for diagnosis. Unfortunately, there is little detail of the condition that ultimately led to his being discharged as permanently unfit for naval service. Bennie was not aboard Cuttable when 3 Japanese midget submarines launched an attack on Sydney Harbour on the night of 31st of May to 1st of June 1942. At around 12:30, a torpedo from midget submarine M24 missed its intended target, the American heavy cruiser USS Chicago. Instead, the torpedo struck the seabed beneath Cuttable, sinking the vessel with the loss of 21 lives. Bennie died of illness at Randwick Military Hospital a few months later on the 14th of August 1942. Survived by his elder brother John, who was serving in the army, and his sister Rosemary, who was on active service as a nursing sister, George Bennie was buried in the Field of Mars Cemetery in Sydney. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph on the plaque on his grave at the Field of Mars Cemetery is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember telegraphist George Ross Bennie, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They have no grave but the cruel sea, no flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.